if you haven't been able to make the progress that I know you keep telling yourself you want to make, you in your business, of course, and maybe even in your life, you might have started to think that, well, this is just never going to work for me, and I should just give up. I should get a job. I should figure something else out because I'm just not going to be able to reach the level of success that I want. Well, I know how frustrating that can be, and it can lead you into a really desperate, depressing self-spiral that really is a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're then not able to get to that next level of success that you want. And I'm going to challenge you today and ask you, is that really the case? And in this video, I'm going to help you to figure out exactly what's at the root of the problem. And I'm going to give you strategies that you can apply, very practical, but some are going to challenge you. And I'm going to help you figure out what you can work around that maybe you feel like you can't change. My name's Winnie Anderson. I'm a positioning and content strategist. I work with introverted, mission-driven entrepreneurs to help them nail their message and get it out to a wider audience so they can make the impact and income that they dream of and deserve. So if that's you, you are in the right place. I have my notes. I've got my camera and my screen, so I'm going to be going back and forth around here. I would love to have your comments, have you ask questions, and of course, share this if you feel that others in your network would benefit from it. Hey, Sue Weeks, my girlfriend. So feel free to post, and if you're watching this on replay, also ask questions, make comments, and of course share. I always circle back to respond to your questions and comments. So let's go ahead and dive in. And the big issue here, of course, I'm talking to introverts. So there's a lot of misperception out there about who is an introvert and am I an introvert? And it took me actually a lot of years to really recognize that I am an introvert. Back before my car accident was in 1999, I was, I'm going to say, an ambivert. So remember, personality is a spectrum, right? And you're somewhere on the spectrum. I don't know that anybody is 100% of one specific kind of letter combination, but I do think that you fall somewhere on this spectrum, with ambiverts being in the middle. So an ambivert is somebody who is sort of in that center section of the spectrum, but most ambiverts, I think, either lean one way or lean to the other. So I was an ambivert, and I probably just had some leanings towards introversion. Looking back now at how I operated in my corporate life, I can really see where it was almost like I was a fish in the wrong pond. I really was an introvert, but I did have these leanings towards extroversion. And as a training manager and as a corporate trainer, somebody who traveled to other locations to do training and had to work closely with other individuals, that balance that I had of introversion and extroversion really worked and helped me to achieve the corporate success that I did achieve. But after the accident, I could not understand what about me was so different. I had a lot of issues with my brain, a lot of physical issues, and a lot of impulse control problems, and I couldn't figure myself out, to be honest with you. So while I was in therapy to relearn how to control my impulses and my emotions, that's when it started to dawn on me that I really wasn't myself, that I had changed in some kind of profound way, and I was then a solid introvert. So let's look at what makes somebody an introvert. And of course, I have notes here. So this is actually a sneak preview of a training I'm going to be doing today for my Nail Your Message group. So let's look at what makes an introvert an introvert. First of all, introverts, there's a lot of misperception out there about us, that we're antisocial, that we don't like people. Some people maybe, but really that's not the case. With introverts, what makes us so unique and what makes us true introverts is that, first of all, our alone time is actually important to our own mental and emotional health. We actually get rejuvenated with our alone time, and we savor it. We do some of our best work when we are alone with our thoughts. We're completely fine that way. Now, at some point, I know I reach a point where I need to talk something through, and that's when I'll reach out to one of my very close friends and say, hey, will you help me think this out loud? The cats don't talk back, unfortunately. They're very demanding, but they don't respond back. You may find that you avoid certain social situations, but it's not because you don't want to be in contact with people. It's because you just are really uncomfortable with small talk. It feels like a waste of time to you. You would rather have a deeper conversation with one person or a few people and really get to know them at a deeper level. You also may have a heightened sense of self-awareness. You're very in tune to your own feelings and emotions. You probably have a small group of really close best friends. You may have a large network, but you have this group that you turn to, and they really are your most intimate people. It's not a big number of people. You might feel that you do some of your best thinking in writing. You may be uncomfortable speaking in public, not because you're afraid of speaking in public, but because you find that time it takes to really write out your thoughts and think through your thoughts. You're very careful with your thoughts and what you say. So you would rather write than speak. Right. So, and one of the other big hallmarks of an introvert is someone who gets very overwhelmed by too much, I'm going to put that in air quotes, too much stimuli. So that would be, this is me. There's a restaurant in town here. I can't even go in because it's too loud. There's a lot of metal and the sound just reverberates. The acoustics are really bad. I feel like I have to yell when I'm out with my husband. So the sound is too much for me. The tables are too close together, and I'm not comfortable with having people like right on top of me. You have to walk sideways to try to get by everybody. And then there are just too many other visual stimuli. That's overwhelming to me. So that could be another kind of a hallmark that you are likely an introvert. Now, that does not mean that you are not going to be successful as a solo professional. It does not mean that you're not going to be successful in organizational life, if that's true. But what it might be is that you may feel like a fish out of water. You might feel uncomfortable when you are around extroverts and you feel out of place, right? That's you as an introvert. And those are things that you can work around, right? I talk myself up to going out to a social occasion where I'm going to be around a lot of people. When I go home to visit my sisters, we always go out and I save up all my errands for when I go home, and then we do them together. But there are times when, okay, the end of the day, all right, we've all reached our breaking point because we've been around too many people. Now it's time to go home and rejuvenate. So you can work around these personality issues. There are some that you don't want to change, the way you think and what you leverage to do some of your best thinking. Outstanding. There's no reason why you would need to change that. But what you want to do is ask yourself, is it really a personality trait and a tendency, Or do I have something that has now become a block to achieving the success I want? And I'll give you an example. So with the issue of socializing, right? I'm not a big fan of physical networking. It's just such a production. I have to get dressed. Not that I don't get dressed for you guys, but I only have to look good from the shoulders up, really, right? I have to do my hair when I go out, and you can see, I'm kind of casual today. I have to put makeup on. Not that I don't do that for you, but I don't do as much as I probably would if I went out. So I have to talk myself into going to whatever social event, and not that I can't do it. But where it crosses the line from your personality trait to a problem is when you're doing it out of fear. You avoid people out of some kind of fear, out of some kind of anxiety, a story that you're telling yourself that nobody wants to meet me. I don't know what I would talk to these people about. I'm going to be judged about what I look like. And that's anxiety, and it's actually a fear. So introverts are not necessarily shy, although people think that we are. We're not necessarily shy. If you are shy, you could be an introvert, but you may also have some level of social anxiety. So this is one of those things I call it a cocktail exercise, and no alcohol needs to be involved. Don't drink and drive. Don't overindulge. But it's an opportunity for you to sit back, stroke your chin, and think big thoughts and go, am I really an introvert, or is there something blocking me? Is there something in my way? So other examples of where you might have something that is actually a fear or some level of anxiety, it could be that you have real cognitive distortions. You've got this negative story that you keep telling yourself. So a cognitive distortion is a thought that is in the extreme, and it is out of what you know to be reality. So an example would be somebody who is a catastrophic thinker. Catastrophic thinker is somebody who goes to extremes in their thinking. Something that, for example, you didn't just stub your toe, you broke it. Right? And you start yelling, that's a catastrophic thinker. Somebody who is also caught up in this kind of negative thinking tells themselves a story that the person didn't return my email because they hate me, right? That's catastrophic thinking. They might not even have gotten your email, but you're telling yourself this big story. That is outside of personality traits of an introvert. That is in the realm of fears and even anxiety that are dictating your thinking and your behavior. By the way, I'm not a licensed therapist. I am not a non-licensed therapist, not a doctor. Don't play one on the internet. And if anything is ringing true for you, you might want to think about finding somebody who can get you some help. And I have lots of people that I can refer you to. Okay, some additional things that can signify that you are experiencing problems with fears, worries, anxiety, and not just your introverted personality could be that you worry in excess. Right, as I record this, Hurricane Dorian is off the coast of Florida. It's just decimated the Bahamas. God bless those people. Hey, Jim Martin, love possibility thinking. Me too, ditto. It's one of the reasons why we probably love each other, right? Because we're two possibility thinkers together. So that's a reasonable thing to worry about, in my opinion. Personally, I can't worry. I believe that worrying is kind of an insult to God. He's in charge. I can prepare. I can assess the situation. I can look at what is a realistic risk, and I can take action. Action is always the best antidote to fear and always will help you get your emotions under control. So if you have worry, it's relatively normal. Excessive worry, this is where it becomes paralyzing and where you start to ruminate and really think about it. Again, worrying, kind of a normal type of thing that most people wrestle with, right? You want to work to recognize that, hey, there's only so much I can control. Focus on that. Don't worry about everything else. Turn the rest over to the big guy or girl upstairs. So again, this is separate from the personality traits of an introvert. So you have to ask yourself, what's in my way and what's keeping me from achieving what I say I want? And while there are a lot of things that impact the magic that is you, you want to also recognize that there are things that, okay, this is who I am. It's not worth it to me to work on changing that. I'd rather put that energy towards changing this, because a lot of what is going on here is a conflict. Two additional things. One is a conflict between your needs and your wants. And then the other item is habit. So just to share needs versus wants, then I'm going to get into how you can break habits. So your needs versus your wants, we're all born with certain needs, and then we develop needs as we navigate through life. So we're born with a need for shelter. We're born with a need for security, right? We're helpless at the time that we're babies. We need things that are nurturing, food, right? Love. We need those basic things. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, if you got that in high school or college, that's pretty much it, right? We know that we were born with these certain needs. Then we develop these other needs as we navigate through life. At some point, each of us experiences something or things that will happen that will lead us to have an emotional wound. And we develop a need to combat that wound and to deal with it. So an example would be if you had an emotional wound around loss, right? As a child, I had several people in my family die who I was close to before I was 8 years old. My grandmother died, who lived with us. One of my crazy uncles died. He lived with us too. So that was pretty traumatic for me, right? These people were important to me. They lived in my house. So that would be a loss, basically. And that's, wounding for a little one. It's wounding for anybody. So you may develop some needs around relationships and around losing people. Maybe you you need to spend more time with people, or you become fearful of people leaving and never coming back, right? So you develop some kind of need around being connected to people, and then needs have a companion fear that they feed, right? A fear of loss. So the next issue is to look at what you want and the need that is tied to that. And there can be a fear that blocks you from achieving that want. So let's say you want more clients, you want to earn more money. You have a need, though, for approval. You have a need for acceptance. You have a need for belonging. You have a need for love. So what has to happen as you cross over, call it the bridge of fear, as you cross over the bridge of fear to get to that want, you run into these obstacles where, well, I'm afraid to put myself out there because I'm going to be rejected, and I have a need for love and acceptance. So that fear of being rejected, it becomes so insurmountable, I can't climb over it, I can't go through it, I can't go around it. So this is much more than your personality traits of introversion. I hope that makes sense. So what you need to think about is, what's my personality trait? And I'm happy and successful within my personality traits, but then what is in my way and keeping me from achieving what I keep saying I want? A crazy example, if you keep saying you want to be healthy, but you keep eating donuts for breakfast, that's not working, right? So you really want to reflect on what you're saying you want, the actions that you're taking, and the needs that and fears that are in conflict with each other. So this leads to the next issue, which is habit. Because really, eating a donut is a choice. And it really is a habit. The habit gets triggered by certain things in your life, and then you just fall on a default to eat a donut. I'll give you an example from my own life. I've got a hair itching my nose. So I once gave up soda, diet soda. I gave up diet soda for like 5 or 6 months. And I was feeling really proud of myself, and I was feeling really good. Then I went on a trip home, which I drive 500 plus miles one way. And of course, I have my routine, my habits along the trip. And there's this one exit that I usually take as a rest stop. I get gas, I hit the bathroom. Well, that place, my brain goes on autopilot, and here I find myself at the soda machine with my cup halfway full, and I'm thinking, crap, I had given up soda, and I got this thing halfway full. Now I could have dumped it out, but something else in me said, you can't dump it out, you might as well drink it, right? Because you don't want to waste something. It's not right to the business. So I drank it, and there my habit was of being soda free was broken, and now I'm back on this rehooked on soda again. Frustrating. That's the power of habit. Habits are great in that they let us operate on autopilot, but habits need to be formed, they need to be nurtured, and we want to form healthy habits that support us. So this issue around introversion and how it could be keeping you from achieving your goals, you really have to ask yourself, is it my personality trait, or is it a habit that I've gotten into? Is it a fear? Is it some kind of anxiety that is keeping me from taking the action that I know I need to take? A big part of this is the story that you tell yourself around the action that you keep saying you need to take, you want to take. The story is, and back to the physical networking, right? The story is that, well, I never meet anybody at those events. Now, is that true? It might feel like it's true, but you never meet anybody. How many people do you actually approach? 0, right? So now that may speak to either your personality trait of introversion and being uncomfortable with small talk, or it could be connected to a fear or an anxiety you have around new situations, meeting new people. So you really have to ask yourself, what is it that is in my way? I know this is hard. I'm not going to kid you. But you have to ask yourself, how badly do I want what I keep saying I want? And how much am I willing to go through to make the change? So I'm going to give you just a couple of quick tips that you can use to get past this. Please feel free to ask questions, make comments. I'm going to sip my Diet Coke, sorry. Okay, so here are some strategies and things you can do to begin to, one, tune into the fact that, okay, it's a bigger issue than just my personality, and some ways that you can get around it, even if it is your personality and you're an introvert. One is you want to work to become a passionate introvert. There's a great video that talks about being a passionate introvert and what that means. If you want that video, just hashtag video and I'll share that with you. You want to focus on the impact that your work and your message has on the world. When we become self-conscious, that's when we start to worry about being accepted and approved. You know, this is really about leadership. Leaders are often rejected. People who have new ideas often have those ideas rejected. There are few people who are genuine leaders, and one is accepting that that's now your role as you build a business and you build an audience and you get your message out there. So one is focus on the impact, not on yourself. Focus on the impact your message will have. And of course, I have notes. That's what I'm looking at. Be the champion of a cause. When you think about that, people who are really champions for their cause, they don't care. They're going to get the message out, right? And I know several of them. I've interviewed several of them for the show. And I just finished an interview with Tracy Maxfield, who is a fascinating person who talks about the impact of bullying, workplace bullying, and how it led to her depression. It led to her having suicidal thoughts. And she eventually wrote a book, and she now is a speaker who is working to help children recognize the impact of bullying on them and how it leads to depression and how they can get out of what she calls the rabbit hole. That's a woman who's a champion for a cause. I'm sure she'd rather sit around and write books and that sort of thing. But she pushes herself because this cause is bigger than she is. So when you can make yourself the leader of a cause, the champion of a cause, and you can focus on that message rather than yourself, you're really going to make leaps and bounds in getting your message out and start to create the breakthrough that you want. Focus on the fact that people need you and need your message. Don't listen to the voices in your head, the little trolls who are telling you, who are you? Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. But there is a targeted audience that you are meant to reach. That's who you're called to. I use an illustration of the bell curve, or a mountain as I refer to it. And I talk about people who are on the right side of the mountain. That's who you're talking to. So often we tell ourselves a story that people are going to reject us. Nobody wants to hear me. That's all part of the story that you tell yourself. You want to think about, number one, getting clear about what it is that you're trying to do. What are you trying to create for yourself? And what are you trying to create for others? So often we have an incredible lack of clarity about what it is that we're actually trying to do. And that part of that is because we've been told what we should be doing. We've been told what we need to do by so many other people, and we haven't trusted ourselves. Next up is to make sure that you have an environment that is supportive of you. Do you surround yourself with people who are actually going to cheer you on and support you, or are you surrounded by people who are negative, who are not striving to get to that next level of success, who are content with singing, "Oh, woe is me"? So again, this is something that you've got to ask yourself. Am I crystal clear on what I want? Do I have an environment full of people who are at different levels of success, who are all working to pull each other up? Am I really managing my habits and my behaviors? Or do I operate on autopilot? This is a big part of self-management. And what ends up happening is we just throw up our hands and say, oh, that's just the way I am. I just, I can't do this because of that. This is a matter of habit. I'm not telling you that it's easy to develop new habits. It's very challenging. As you can see from my silly example of the Diet Coke machine. You've got to be fully conscious and fully aware as you work to let go of past habitual behaviors and learn and adopt and embrace new habits and habitual behaviors. So when what you're doing is holding you back, that's when it's time you've got to face those tough decisions, and you've got to take action that's going to help you move forward and achieve your goals ultimately. So there's lots more that I could share. There are actually a total of 8, I call them pillars of success, that are all built around supporting you in making habit change and in identifying and creating new habits. I share them regularly with the group that I have, the free group that I support here on Facebook. It's called the Courageous Success Community. It is for introverted, mission-driven entrepreneurs who know that they want to be part of a community that is like personality and like-minded and all focused on bringing positive change in the world. So if you think that that might be a good group for you, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about it, but you can use #group and I'll reach out to you with how you can get involved in that community. I share daily prompts with that group to help them continue to push themselves. And I often do free trainings inside there, and we have conversations around putting ourselves out there and getting our message out. So you also want to make sure that, we introverts, we're inside our head. So you want to make sure that the thoughts in your head are supportive, that your self-talk is positive, that it is abundance-minded, that it is kind to yourself. Often we're nicer to total strangers than we are to ourselves. We're so mean to ourselves, beating ourselves up, being self-abusive, actually. So I know that was a lot today. Just to give you a quick recap, I was talking about the issue of, is it your introverted personality that is in your way, or do you in fact have issues that are related to anxiety, worries, and fears? I gave you some examples so that you could look at it. This is my personality, or it's crossed over into some level of anxiety or fear. If you would like to get assistance, I have folks who I can refer you to who are fantastic. You can always put #help and I will reach out to you and get you the names of some of my trusted resources who are experts in that area. I also shared with you how you can begin to make the change to bring these thought processes into alignment with what you say you want, and a few simple strategies, part of the pillars of success, to help you move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity. Clarity, of course, being number one. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you've joined me late, be sure to watch this video. It will be up on Facebook for probably 3 or 4 days. Then I will be taking it down, and it will be over on my website as well as in my vault area of resources. All right. This has been Winnie Anderson. I'm a positioning strategist. I work with introverted, mission-driven entrepreneurs like coaches, consultants, healers, experts to help them nail their message and get their message out in a bigger way to the world and help them reach their goals so they can make the impact and income that they dream of. And I will see you in another episode of The After Show, and I will be releasing a new episode of The Courageous Entrepreneur Show next week. All right, bye for now. Have a fantastic day.